Life is a journey that begins the moment we take our first breath and continues until the final heartbeat. And throughout this journey, we are constantly faced with decisions. Some small and seemingly insignificant, others enormous and life-defining, from the choice of what to eat in the morning to the choice of whom we spend our lives with. Every moment offers an opportunity to decide, and each decision shapes the path we walk on. Life does not offer guarantees or directions that are clearly marked for us. It offers moments of opportunity and challenges that test our ability to choose wisely. From childhood, we are introduced to the concept of choice, at first in simple forms: the choice between playing outside or staying indoors, the choice between chocolate or vanilla ice cream. But as we grow, the choices become more complex and their consequences more profound. Choosing a career path, choosing a friend, choosing a partner, choosing how to spend time or money. These choices often define not only our happiness and success, but also our character and integrity, and the ability to face challenges with courage and resilience. Many people fear choices because they fear failure and uncertainty. They hope for life to be a straight path where every decision leads smoothly to the next. But life is not linear. Life is full of twists and turns, and the ability to navigate these twists with awareness and purpose determines the quality of our lives. Realizing that life is all about choices is not just a motivational phrase. It is a reality-based observation that every action has consequences, and that we hold more power than we often admit in shaping our own destinies. Throughout this book, we will explore how choices affect every aspect of life, from personal growth to relationships to career and finances, through real-life examples and stories of ordinary people who made extraordinary choices and faced the outcomes with courage and wisdom. We will learn that even choices that seem small and inconsequential can ripple through our lives in ways we could never imagine, and that making thoughtful, deliberate choices consistently can transform our existence and bring us closer to the life we desire. This journey will not sugarcoat reality. It will not suggest that every choice leads to instant happiness, or that every decision can be perfectly predicted. Instead, it will provide insight into how to approach choices with clarity, awareness, and integrity, and how to accept responsibility for the outcomes, even when they are difficult or painful. It will show that mistakes are not failures, but lessons that guide us toward better decisions in the future. In the chapters that follow, we will examine the power of choice in everyday life, the importance of aligning decisions with values and goals, the role of patience, persistence, and courage in making choices, and the way to recover and learn from choices that do not turn out as planned. We will share stories of people who faced crossroads and chose paths that led them to unexpected success, joy, and fulfillment, as well as stories of people who ignored choices or made hasty decisions and learned profound lessons through the consequences. Life is all about choices, and embracing this truth empowers us to live deliberately, consciously, and fully. It reminds us that we are not victims of circumstance, but creators of our own paths, that every decision we make builds the story of our lives, and that the quality of our choices ultimately determines the quality of our existence. Chapter 1. The Power of Everyday Choices. Life often seems like a series of events beyond our control, as if we are swept along by a current of circumstances. Yet hidden within this current is a quiet force that shapes the course of our existence. The force of choice. Every morning we wake up, we are faced with decisions, some so small we hardly notice them. Yet their cumulative effect is enormous. The choice to get out of bed or linger a few more minutes, the choice to smile at a stranger, or keep our gaze down, the choice to speak a kind word, or remain silent. Each of these moments offers an opportunity to shape our day and ultimately our life. Consider a young woman named Maya, who wakes up each day in a bustling city filled with endless noise and distractions. She used to hit the snooze button repeatedly and rush through her mornings feeling anxious and unprepared. But one day, she decided to change her habit. She chose to wake up earlier, to meditate, to drink water, and plan her day slowly and deliberately over time. These small choices transformed her mornings and her mindset. She discovered that starting the day with intention gave her a sense of control and focus that spread into her work relationships and personal life. Maya learned that even small daily choices can ripple through life, creating unexpected benefits. Choices are not always about habits. They also shape our relationships and the way we interact with the world. Imagine two friends, John and Ravi, who both faced the challenge of supporting a friend in need. John chose to take time to listen to his friend, offering patience and understanding, while Ravi chose to ignore the situation, hoping it would resolve itself over time. John's choice strengthened his friendship and created a bond of trust that lasted years, while Ravi later realized that ignoring the situation caused distance and regret. These examples show that choices about how we treat others are as important as choices about ourselves, and that empathy and attention are decisions we make consciously or unconsciously each day. As we grow older, the stakes of choices increase. Decisions about education, careers, yet they too follow the same principle of conscious action versus passive reaction. Consider Arya, a young college student faced with a difficult decision. She had two offers, one from a prestigious company that promised high pay and status, another from a small nonprofit where she could make a meaningful impact on her community. Arya could have chosen based solely on status or money, but she reflected on her values, her passions, and the kind of life she wanted to live. She chose the nonprofit and found fulfillment and purpose that could never have been measured in salary. Arya's example demonstrates that aligning choices with personal values creates a sense of satisfaction that external rewards cannot match. Life is also about learning from choices that do not go as planned. A man named David invested time and money into a business that ultimately failed. Instead of seeing it as a wasted effort, he chose to reflect on the lessons it offered. He learned about planning, communication, and resilience. And when he started a new venture, he applied these lessons, achieving success beyond his initial expectations. David's story illustrates that the outcomes of choices are often unpredictable, yet the way we respond to them is itself a choice we can make to grow or to give up. Even choices about mindset and perspective hold power over our lives. Consider Sarah, who faced a chronic illness. She could have, but instead, she chose curiosity and acceptance. She learned to listen to her body, to pace herself, to seek support, and to focus on what she could control rather than what she could not. Over time, Sarah discovered a sense of peace and strength that extended into all areas of her life. Her choice to approach adversity with intention changed not only her experience of illness, but also the way she approached challenges and opportunities. Every day is filled with moments like these moments where we may feel powerless, yet are in fact presented with opportunities to choose courage over fear, action over inaction, hope over despair, and attention over distraction. Each choice shapes our character and our life story. The cumulative effect of these decisions determines not only where we end up, but who we become. The practice of consciously choosing begins with awareness, noticing the moments we have the power to act and the options before us. It grows through reflection, understanding the outcomes of past decisions and the values that guide us. And it strengthens through repetition, transforming choice from a burden into a habit of intentional living. In this chapter, we have seen that choices are everywhere, some visible, others hidden in subtle decisions about attitude, behavior, and response. We have explored how small daily habits shape our mindset, how decisions about relationships influence connection and trust, how career and life decisions reflect values, and how responding to outcomes with reflection and growth shapes resilience and character. The power of everyday choices lies not in their complexity, but in their consistency, in the willingness to engage consciously with life, and to recognize that every moment is an opportunity to choose a path toward growth, fulfillment, and meaning. Life is all about choices, and understanding this truth empowers us to live intentionally, to embrace responsibility, and to see each moment as an invitation to create the life we desire. Each decision, no matter how small, contributes to a mosaic of experience and character that defines who we are and the world we build around us. Chapter 2. Choices and Consequences in Relationships and Career. Life presents choices in relationships and career that often feel like crossroads, where the path we take can change the course of our future in ways that are profound and sometimes irreversible. The way we respond to people, the decisions we make about whom to trust and how to invest our energy shape our happiness and our sense of purpose. Just as the decisions we make about work and vocation determine not only our financial stability, but also our personal growth and satisfaction. Consider the story of Rena, a young professional who faced a difficult choice early in her career. She was offered a promotion that came with prestige and a significant raise, but it required relocating to a city far from her family and friends. She weighed the benefits of career advancement against the potential loneliness and loss of connection. She chose to take the position and initially struggled with isolation and homesickness. However, she also discovered new friendships, mentors, and opportunities she could never have imagined. And over time, her choice opened doors for growth in both her career and personal life. This example illustrates that career choices often involve trade-offs, and that thoughtful decision-making requires looking beyond immediate gains to long-term fulfillment. Relationships, too, are shaped by conscious choice. Imagine two siblings, Maya and Anil, who had grown apart after years of misunderstandings and distance. Both could have chosen to ignore the past and continue the pattern of resentment, or they could choose to reach out and rebuild connection. They chose the latter through difficult conversations, forgiveness, and consistent effort. They restored a bond that brought joy and support into their lives. This shows that relationships require active choices of empathy, patience, and communication, and that choosing to invest in connection creates long-lasting rewards. Sometimes choices in relationships require courage and the willingness to face discomfort. For instance, Lara found herself in a friendship that had become toxic. She felt drained and unappreciated, yet leaving the relationship seemed painful and uncertain. She had to choose between enduring familiarity and the unknown freedom of stepping away. After careful reflection, she chose to set boundaries and eventually distance herself. The choice was difficult and initially lonely, but it allowed her to cultivate friendships that were supportive, respectful, and nurturing. Lara's experience demonstrates that choosing well in relationships is not always easy, but that long-term well-being often depends on making choices that align with our values and self-respect. Career decisions also carry consequences beyond the obvious monetary rewards. A man named Samir worked in a high-paying job that left him stressed and unfulfilled. He could have chosen to stay for security or take a leap into entrepreneurship despite uncertainty. He chose the path of creating a business based on his passion for sustainable agriculture. The journey was fraught with challenges, financial instability, and learning curves. Yet he found satisfaction in contributing to something meaningful and building something of his own. The choice to prioritize purpose over immediate comfort reshaped his life and provided a sense of accomplishment that no paycheck could match. Choices in relationships and career are often intertwined, as the way we spend our time work directly affects the energy we bring into our personal connections, and vice versa. A woman named Nisha struggled to balance a demanding career with family responsibilities. She could have chosen to devote herself entirely to work or neglect her career for family obligations. She chose instead to communicate openly with her family and employers, seek flexible arrangements, and create boundaries that respected both areas of her life. This required continual adjustment and reflection, yet it allowed her to maintain meaningful relationships while advancing her professional goals. Her story illustrates that conscious choices and ongoing evaluation are necessary to harmonize life domains and achieve holistic well-being. Even when choices seem difficult or impossible, the act of making a decision itself is powerful. Indecision leads to stagnation, missed opportunities, and regret. Consider Arjun, who had been offered 2 jobs, one in his hometown, with stability and a moderate salary, the other in a distant city with higher risk and greater learning potential for months. He delayed, choosing, fearing he might make the wrong decision. Eventually, he realized that indecision was costing him momentum and growth. He chose the distant opportunity, embracing the uncertainty and challenge. The result was not only professional development, but personal growth in resilience, confidence, and adaptability. Arjun's experience shows that the consequences of avoiding choice can be just as significant as the consequences of action, and that embracing decision-making empowers us to take charge of our life. In relationships and career, consequences are inevitable and sometimes unpredictable, yet every choice provides information, opportunity, and a lesson for the future. The key is not perfection in decision-making, but responsibility in action, reflection, and willingness to adapt when needed. Stories like those of Rina, Lara, Samir, Nisha, and Arjun teach that conscious choice builds resilience, character, and the capacity to navigate life's complexities. It reinforces that while outcomes cannot always be guaranteed, the act of choosing aligns our lives with our intentions, values, and aspirations. Chapter 2 emphasizes that life is not something that happens to us passively. Rather, it is a series of moments where we hold the power to direct our path through choices in relationships and career. The quality of these decisions determines not only success and fulfillment, but also the depth and richness of our human connections and the sense of meaning we derive from our work and interactions. Understanding the consequences of choice and the responsibility inherent in every decision allows us to approach relationships and career with awareness, courage, and clarity. It teaches that intentional choices lead to stronger connections, greater satisfaction, and personal growth, while neglecting to choose consciously can result in regret, stagnation, and diminished well-being. Life is all about choices, and mastering this understanding in the spheres of relationships and career lays the foundation for a life that is purposeful, fulfilling, and resilient. Chapter 3: Choices, Personal Growth, and Self-Discipline. Life is shaped not only by the external decisions we make in relationships and career, but also by the internal choices that govern our habits, mindset, and personal development. The way we manage our time, our energy, and our attention determines the trajectory of our growth and ultimately our fulfillment. Every day we face choices that seem small and inconsequential, yet these moments compound to define who we become and the life we lead. Consider the story of Kiran, a young man who struggled with procrastination and lack of focus. He often dreamed of achieving great things, yet he found himself distracted by social media and idle habits. He faced a choice to continue in the comfort of inaction, or to develop self-discipline and take intentional steps toward his goals. Kiran decided to begin small by creating a morning routine of exercise, reading, and planning his day. Gradually, these small, consistent choices rewired his habits, increased his focus, and allowed him to make significant progress toward his ambitions. Kiran's story demonstrates that personal growth begins with conscious choices in daily routines and the willingness to commit to long-term development. Self-discipline is a choice that often requires delaying immediate gratification in favor of long-term benefit. Consider Priya, who wanted to learn a new language. She could have chosen the easier path of passive entertainment or the challenging path of consistent study and practice. She chose the latter, dedicating 30 minutes each day to learning. Over months, she became fluent. This opened opportunities for travel work and cultural connection that she could never have accessed without the deliberate choice to invest in herself. Her example illustrates that personal growth is rarely accidental. It is cultivated through repeated choices that prioritize learning, effort, and consistency. Choices also define our mindset. The way we interpret experiences and respond to challenges shapes our resilience and emotional well-being. Imagine Ravi, who faced repeated setbacks in his career. Each failure could have led to despair and resignation, yet he chose to view each challenge as a lesson, an opportunity to refine his skills and approach his work differently. This mindset allowed him to persevere and eventually succeed beyond what he had imagined. Early disappointments became stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Ravi's story shows that choosing perspective is as powerful as choosing action. It is a conscious decision to frame life in ways that empower rather than defeat. Even choices in the smallest daily actions contribute to personal growth. A woman named Annika decided to consciously practice gratitude each evening. She reflected on 3 things she was thankful for. The choice seemed trivial at first, yet over months it transformed her outlook on life. She noticed more joy in small moments, more patience with challenges, and more empathy toward others. Annika learned that the choice to focus on what is positive cultivates resilience and emotional strength that influences every aspect of life. Her experience illustrates that personal growth is cumulative, and that consistent intentional choices create lasting transformation. Personal growth also involves choosing courage over comfort. The story of Samir, who left a secure job to pursue a creative passion in music, highlights this principle. He faced fear, uncertainty, and skepticism from others, yet he chose to follow his heart, dedicating years to practice performance and self-promotion. The path was difficult, yet ultimately rewarding. The choice to embrace discomfort for growth allowed him to achieve a sense of fulfillment and self-expression that would have been impossible otherwise. His example demonstrates that growth often requires risk, and that courage itself is a choice. Choices related to self-discipline and growth extend to health, well-being, and lifestyle. A man named Vikram struggled with maintaining his physical and mental health. Yet he chose to prioritize sleep, exercise, nutrition, and mindfulness gradually. He regained energy, focus, and emotional balance. His choice to invest in his body and mind had ripple effects in his career performance, relationships, and overall satisfaction. His story emphasizes that self-care is a choice that directly influences every dimension of life, and that neglecting it carries consequences for growth and well-being. The process of personal growth is ongoing. It requires reflection, assessment, and recalibration. Every choice provides feedback. If we pay attention, we learn what serves our development and what hinders it. Consider Mira, who kept journals of her goals, decisions, and outcomes. Over years, she used this practice to identify patterns of success and areas for improvement. The simple choice to observe her life consciously enhanced her ability to make decisions aligned with her values and ambitions. Her example shows that growth is not passive, it is deliberate, and that reflection magnifies the power of every choice we make. Chapter 3 teaches that life is all about choices, not only in the obvious external domains, but also in the inner realm of habits, mindset, and personal discipline. Every small choice to act intentionally, to prioritize growth, and to embrace responsibility compounds into transformation. The ability to choose courage, consistency, reflection, and perspective determines the pace and quality of our personal evolution. The stories of Kiran, Priya, Ravi, Anika, Samir, Vikram, and Mira illustrate that growth is not an accident. It is the result of countless deliberate decisions made with awareness and purpose. Understanding that life is all about choices empowers us to take ownership of our habits, mindset, and actions. It reminds us that personal growth is always accessible, yet requires commitment, that the choices we make today shape the person we become tomorrow, and that consistent intentionality is the key to a life of fulfillment, achievement, and inner strength. Chapter 4: Choices in Adversity and Challenges. Life does not always unfold as we plan. It challenges, setbacks, and unexpected difficulties are inevitable. Yet even in the most trying circumstances, we retain the power of choice. The way we respond to adversity defines not only the outcome of the situation, but also the strength of our character and the trajectory of our lives. Facing challenges is not a matter of avoiding pain or hardship. It is about choosing courage, resilience, and action in the midst of difficulty. Consider the story of Arav, a young man who lost his job unexpectedly, leaving him with financial pressure and uncertainty. He could have chosen despair, resentment, and passivity. Instead, he chose to view the situation as an opportunity to reassess his skills, passions, and goals. He began learning new competencies, networking with peers, and applying for positions aligned with his long-term vision. Over time, Arav secured a role that was more fulfilling and better suited to his growth. The choice to respond proactively, rather than succumb to defeat, transformed a crisis into a turning point, illustrating that adversity offers a chance to make intentional choices that shape the future. Challenges also test our values and integrity. The story of Nina, who worked in a company that pressured employees to compromise ethics, provides a powerful example. She could have chosen convenience and conformity. Yet she chose to uphold her principles, even at the cost of her job. The immediate consequences were difficult financial strain and uncertainty, yet her choice reinforced her self-respect and eventually led to opportunities in organizations that valued honesty and alignment with her values. Nina's experience shows that choices in adversity are not only about survival, but about defining the person we become and the standards we uphold. Health crises provide another arena where choices are crucial. Imagine Ramesh diagnosed with a chronic illness, He could have chosen despair and negligence, or he could choose to follow treatment plans, adopt lifestyle changes, and seek support. He chose the latter, embracing diet, exercise, and mindfulness practices. Over time, his condition stabilized, and he discovered a new appreciation for life and relationships. The choice to act consciously in the face of adversity enhanced not only his physical well-being, but his mental resilience and outlook on life, illustrating that choices in challenging times have profound ripple effects. Adversity also reveals the power of mindset. The story of Mehul, who faced repeated academic failures, highlights this truth. He could have believed himself incapable and given up, yet he chose to analyze his mistakes, seek guidance, and persist despite setbacks. His determination led to eventual success and personal growth. His choice to view challenges as opportunities for learning demonstrates that mindset is itself a choice, and that perseverance transforms obstacles into stepping stones. Even natural disasters or large-scale life disruptions provide examples of how choices determine outcomes. Consider the story of a family whose home was destroyed in a flood. They could have surrendered to despair or conflict, yet they chose to collaborate, rebuild, and support one another. They found strength, solidarity, and purpose through conscious decisions to act, help, and adapt. These choices fostered resilience and unity, illustrating that in the face of uncontrollable circumstances, the power of choice shapes not only immediate survival, but long-term recovery and cohesion. Adversity often tests relationships as well. The story of two friends, Arjun and Suman, illustrates this point. Arjun faced personal loss and emotional hardship. He could have isolated himself or leaned on Suman for support. He chose the latter, opening up and allowing mutual support to flow. Suman, in turn, chose to listen with empathy and offer consistent encouragement. Together they navigated grief and stress, strengthening a bond that became a source of resilience and mutual growth. This demonstrates that choices in adversity affect not only personal outcomes, but the quality and depth of our connections. Challenges also illuminate the importance of small, consistent choices. The example of Tara, a student preparing for a competitive examination under family pressure and financial strain, shows that incremental decisions compound to create extraordinary results. Tara chose daily disciplined study, maintained a balanced lifestyle, and sought guidance when needed. Months later, she achieved success that seemed improbable at the outset. Her story demonstrates that when faced with overwhelming circumstances, the conscious choices we make every day determine the final outcome, reinforcing the reality that life rewards persistent and mindful action. Chapter 4 teaches that life is all about choices, especially in times of adversity, and challenge each decision, whether to act or remain passive, to persevere or give in, to uphold values or compromise, defines our character, builds resilience, and shapes future possibilities, even in situations beyond our control. The examples of Arav Naina, Ramesh Mehul, the flood-affected family Arjun, Suman, and Tara illustrate that conscious decisions in the face of difficulty transform crises into opportunities for growth, connection, and strength. Understanding the power of choice in adversity allows us to navigate life with courage and clarity. It reminds us that no matter the magnitude of the challenge, we always retain the ability to decide how to respond, that our reactions create consequences that ripple through our lives and the lives of others, and that embracing responsibility, even in hardship, empowers us to emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable than we were before. Chapter 5. Choices and the Pursuit of Happiness and Fulfillment. Happiness and fulfillment are not accidental states. They are the results of choices that align our actions with our values, our passions, and our purpose. Life presents countless opportunities to chase fleeting pleasures or cultivate lasting joy. Yet the path to meaningful happiness requires conscious decision-making and consistent alignment with what truly matters to us. Consider the story of Anaya, who spent years pursuing external validation through social media popularity. She could have continued seeking likes, approval, and recognition from others. Yet she chose to turn inward to explore her authentic interests and passions. She began painting, writing, and volunteering for causes she cared about over time. Anaya discovered a deep sense of fulfillment that no external approval could provide. Her choice to focus on intrinsic values rather than external validation illustrates that happiness is often a product of conscious alignment with personal meaning rather than transient rewards. Choices also shape how we invest our time and energy. A man named Raj had a demanding corporate job that consumed most of his day. He could have chosen to continue in the routine of work and stress, or he could choose to allocate time for hobbies, family, and self-reflection. He chose the latter, gradually integrating morning walks with his children, reading for pleasure, and practicing mindfulness. Raj found that the quality of his relationships improved his mental. Raj's story shows that fulfillment emerges from intentional allocation of energy toward what nurtures our mind, body, and spirit. Even small daily choices influence long-term contentment. Consider Layla, who decided each evening to reflect on moments of joy from her day. She noted a kind word received at sunset. She enjoyed a conversation with a friend. This simple practice shifted her attention from worry and frustration to appreciation and positivity. Over months, it transformed her outlook. She became calmer, more optimistic, and more connected to the present moment. Leela's experience demonstrates that small, consistent choices in perspective and attention accumulate into profound emotional well-being and fulfillment. The pursuit of happiness also involves choosing relationships that uplift and support us. A young woman named Simran realized that several friendships in her life were draining and negative. She could have tolerated them to avoid conflict, yet she chose to distance herself and invest in relationships that inspired trust, respect, and growth. The result was a network of supportive connections that enhanced her sense of belonging and joy. Simran's story illustrates that fulfillment is shaped not only by what we do, but by whom we surround ourselves with, and that the choice to cultivate positive relationships amplifies our happiness. Purpose and contribution are central to lasting fulfillment. Choices in this domain often define the meaning we derive from life. A man named Dev dedicated his weekends to mentoring underprivileged children. He could have spent the time solely on leisure, yet he chose to offer guidance and support consistently. Over years, he observed the impact of his choices on the children's confidence and growth. He also felt a profound sense of purpose and satisfaction in knowing his efforts mattered. Dev's example shows that choices in service and contribution create fulfillment that transcends self-interest and enriches both giver and receiver. The pursuit of happiness also requires courage to choose paths less traveled. A woman named Meera chose to leave a high-paying but unfulfilling corporate role to start a social enterprise. Addressing environmental challenges, she faced uncertainty, financial risk, and criticism. Yet the choice aligned her work with her values and passions. Over time, she experienced joy, growth, and the satisfaction of contributing to a cause bigger than herself. Meera's story highlights that fulfillment often requires conscious prioritization of purpose over comfort, and the willingness to embrace the unknown in pursuit of meaning. Happiness and fulfillment are also linked to choices in mindset and resilience. The story of Kunal, who faced repeated failures in creative writing, demonstrates this principle. He could have given up or blamed circumstances. Yet he chose persistence, optimism, and continuous learning over years. He refined his craft, eventually publishing works that brought joy to readers and pride to himself. Kunal's example shows that choosing a growth-oriented mindset and resilience is as crucial to fulfillment as external achievements or circumstances. Chapter 5 teaches that life is all about choices in the realm of happiness and fulfillment. Each decision about values, priorities, relationships, mindset, and contribution shapes the quality of our inner experience. The stories of Anaya Raj, Leela Simran, Dev Mehra, and Kunal illustrate that contentment is cultivated through conscious alignment of actions with meaning, passion, and purpose, rather than through avoidance of discomfort or pursuit of superficial gains. Understanding that life is all about choices empowers us to take responsibility for our own happiness. It reminds us that joy is cultivated through intentional decisions that nurture mind, body, and soul. That fulfillment is an ongoing process, requiring reflection, courage, and consistency, and that every moment offers an opportunity to choose actions that create a meaningful and satisfying life. Chapter 6. Time and Priorities. Time is the one resource in life that is truly finite and non-renewable. Every second that passes is gone forever. Yet how we choose to spend our time shapes our experiences, growth, and achievements. The way we prioritize tasks, activities, and people determines the trajectory of our lives. More than luck, more than circumstances, the daily choices we make about time define our success, happiness, and sense of purpose. Consider the story of Arjun, a software engineer who constantly felt overwhelmed by work, personal commitments, and social obligations. He could have continued reacting to every demand that came his way, or he could choose to consciously prioritize what mattered most. He decided to map his goals and daily activities, aligning each action with his long-term vision. He delegated tasks, said no to distractions, and invested in activities that fostered his growth and relationships over months. He noticed a sense of control, reduced stress, and greater achievement. Arjun's story illustrates that prioritizing time through intentional choices transforms overwhelm into clarity and productivity. Choices about time also affect relationships. A woman named Nisha realized she spent most evenings on her phone, scrolling through social media, yet her friendships were weakening due to lack of attention. She could have ignored the situation, or she could choose to dedicate focused time to her friends and family. She decided to schedule weekly calls, attend gatherings, and be fully present during conversations. Over time, her connections deepened and her support network strengthened. Nisha's experience demonstrates that choices about time allocation directly influence the quality and depth of relationships, and that meaningful connections require deliberate investment of attention and energy. Even simple daily choices about how we use our time accumulate into life-changing results. The story of Rohit, a student preparing for competitive exams, shows this clearly. He could have spent hours idly watching television or browsing the internet. Yet he chose consistent, focused study for a set number of hours each day. He also allocated time for exercise and rest, balancing productivity and well-being over months. The consistent choices compounded into remarkable preparation and eventual success. Rohit's example illustrates that disciplined management of time creates outcomes that no shortcut can achieve. and that long-term success is built on repeated small intentional choices. Work-life balance is another arena where time choices define satisfaction. A woman named Mira worked in a demanding corporate role. She could have devoted all her time to work and neglected her personal life. Yet she chose to block evenings for family, weekends for hobbies, and short breaks for self-care. This choice required discipline and boundary setting, yet it brought mental clarity, emotional stability, and better performance at work. Mira's story demonstrates that choices about time allocation influence not only productivity, but also well-being and life satisfaction. Choices also shape how we respond to opportunities and commitments. A man named Samir was invited to numerous professional events and social gatherings. He could have attended everything for fear of missing out, or he could choose selectively focusing on events aligned with his growth, learning, and networking goals. He chose the latter, prioritizing quality over quantity over time. He built meaningful relationships and advanced professionally, while preserving time for rest and personal development. Samir's example shows that conscious selection and prioritization of commitments creates efficiency, satisfaction, and purpose. Time choices also include how we invest in ourselves. The story of Priya, who decided to dedicate an hour each day to reading, meditation, and skill development, illustrates this principle. She could have spent that time on passive entertainment or distractions. Yet she chose deliberate self-investment over months. Her knowledge expanded, her emotional resilience strengthened, and her abilities enhanced. Her choice demonstrates that personal growth is fueled by consistent investment of time, and that the quality of our lives is directly proportional to how wisely we spend our hours. Even during crisis or demanding periods, time choices remain crucial. The story of Ramesh, who juggled work, health, and family responsibilities, shows that conscious planning and prioritization determines outcomes. He could have reacted impulsively or succumbed to stress, yet he chose to allocate time for each priority, delegate where possible, and focus on critical tasks, while letting go of less important obligations over time. He managed to maintain health, relationships, and career progress, illustrating that thoughtful allocation of time is a choice that governs resilience and effectiveness. Chapter 6 teaches that life is all about choices and how we manage time and set priorities. Each decision to focus, allocate, or say no compounds into the architecture of our life. The stories of Arjun, Nisha, Rohit, Mira, Samir, and Priya illustrate that intentional time management creates productivity, balance, growth, and fulfillment, while neglecting to choose priorities results in stress, missed opportunities, and diminished satisfaction. Understanding that life is all about choices empowers us to take responsibility for our hours. It reminds us that every moment is an opportunity to invest in what matters most, that consistent prioritization aligns our actions with long-term goals and values, and that thoughtful choices about time create the structure for a meaningful, productive, and satisfying life. Chapter 7. Choices and Long-Term Vision. Life is a series of moments and decisions, yet the true trajectory of our existence is shaped by the long-term vision we choose to hold, and the decisions we make today to align with that vision. A long-term vision is like a compass guiding us through uncertainty and complexity. Without it, choices become reactive and scattered, and life drifts without purpose. Those who cultivate clarity about what they want to achieve and who they want to become can make daily choices that are consistent with that vision, turning each step into progress toward a meaningful future. Consider the story of Samir, a young entrepreneur who dreamed of building a company that would innovate sustainable energy solutions. He could have focused on short-term profits and quick wins, yet he chose to invest in research development and building a skilled team over years, despite slow initial returns. His long-term vision kept him committed and resilient over time. The company became a market leader, creating impact and financial stability. The story illustrates that choices aligned with a clear long-term vision compound to produce outcomes far beyond immediate gratification. Long-term vision also shapes personal habits and lifestyle decisions. A woman named Priya wanted to be healthy and active into her later years. She could have ignored exercise and nutrition for temporary pleasure. Yet she chose daily walks, balanced meals, and consistent sleep over decades. The cumulative effect of these choices was vitality, energy, and well-being far beyond what short-term indulgence could provide. Priya's experience demonstrates that vision drives consistent daily choices and that long-term planning transforms health and quality of life. Education and skill development are areas where long-term vision is critical. A young student named Arav aspired to be a scientist. He could have spent time on distractions and entertainment. Yet he chose to study diligently, explore research opportunities, and seek mentorship. He maintained focus even when results were slow or challenging over years. He gained admission to a prestigious program and contributed to meaningful scientific work. Arav's story shows that decisions grounded in long-term aspirations direct effort and attention in ways that accelerate achievement and growth. Relationships and personal values are also shaped by long-term vision. The story of Mira illustrates this principle. She wanted a life surrounded by supportive and like-minded people. She could have tolerated negative relationships for comfort or convenience. Yet she chose carefully whom to invest time and energy in over decades. This created a community that nurtured growth, happiness, and collaboration. Her story emphasizes that choices about who we allow into our lives should reflect the vision of the kind of life and relationships we want to cultivate. Financial planning is another arena where long-term vision transforms choices into security and opportunity. Ramesh wanted financial independence and stability. He could have spent impulsively on fleeting pleasures, yet he chose to budget, invest, and plan for retirement consistently. Over decades, the cumulative result was security, freedom, and the ability to pursue passions without constraint. Ramesh's example demonstrates that long-term goals guide daily financial decisions, and that patience and consistency are essential to realizing vision. Even in adversity, long-term vision provides direction. A woman named Annika faced repeated setbacks in her career. She could have given up or shifted focus to temporary gains. Yet she chose to remain aligned with her long-term dream of creating social impact through education. She sought alternative paths, learned new skills, and persisted over years, eventually achieving a leadership role in a nonprofit that transformed lives. Annika's story shows that vision helps navigate challenges and guides choices that keep the bigger picture in mind. Chapter 7 teaches that life is all about choices, guided by a clear long-term vision. Each decision today either brings us closer to or further from the future we desire. The stories of Samir, Priya, Arav, Mira, Ramesh, and Annika illustrate that vision transforms ordinary daily actions into meaningful progress, that patience, persistence, and alignment magnify outcomes, and that conscious choices create the life we aspire to over years and decades. Understanding that life is all about choices empowers us to live with foresight and intention. It reminds us that every decision is an investment in our future, that alignment with long-term goals magnifies the impact of even small actions, and that clarity of vision ensures that the life we build reflects our deepest aspirations, purpose, and values. Chapter 8: Choices, Legacy, and Impact. Life is not only about the experiences we gather for ourselves, but also about the impact we create and the legacy we leave behind. The choices we make ripple beyond our personal lives, affecting families, communities, and even generations. Our values, actions, and decisions define not only who we are, but how the world remembers us and how we influence others, consciously choosing to live with purpose, responsibility, and integrity allows us to shape a legacy that endures beyond our own lifetime. Consider the story of Rena, a teacher who could have limited her focus to completing her daily tasks and earning her salary. Yet she chose to invest time in mentoring students, inspiring curiosity, and nurturing confidence. She went beyond the curriculum, offering guidance and encouragement to those struggling academically or emotionally over years. Her choices transformed the lives of countless students, some of whom became leaders, innovators, and change makers. Rena's story illustrates that legacy is built through consistent choices that positively impact the lives of others, and that small acts of dedication compound into enduring influence. Choices also determine the values and traditions we pass on within families. The story of Vikram, a father who chose to prioritize presence, guidance, and example over material provision, highlights this principle. He could have focused solely on earning and providing, yet he chose to model honesty, empathy, and perseverance for his children over years, instilling principles that shaped their character and decisions in adulthood. Vikram's experience demonstrates that legacy is not just wealth or possessions, but the imprint of values, habits, and choices transmitted to others. Community and societal impact are also shaped by conscious choices. A woman named Mira dedicated her life to environmental activism. Yet she chose to organize cleanup drives, educate communities, and advocate for sustainable policies. Over decades, her decisions inspired collective action, policy changes, and awareness that affected thousands of lives. Mira's story illustrates that choices in service and advocacy amplify impact, and that one person's intentional actions can influence the course of communities and society at large. Even in professional contexts, legacy is determined by ethical decisions and influence on others. The story of Arav, a corporate leader, demonstrates this principle. He could have pursued profit at any cost, yet he chose to implement fair policies, mentor young employees, and foster a culture of integrity over years. His company thrived not only financially, but also as a model of ethical leadership. Arav's choices created a professional legacy of trust and respect that extended well beyond his tenure, illustrating that choices in leadership shape organizational culture and reputation long after individual presence. Choices made in adversity also shape legacy. A man named Samir survived a natural disaster. He could have focused solely on his own recovery. Yet he chose to support neighbors, rebuild homes, and coordinate relief efforts over months. His actions strengthened community resilience and solidarity, and left a lasting imprint on those he helped. Samir's experience shows that the character revealed in challenging moments contributes profoundly to the legacy we leave behind. Even personal passions and creative endeavors can become part of a lasting legacy. Consider Layla, an artist who chose to create works that reflected social issues and human emotion. She could have pursued only commercial success, yet she chose authenticity and contribution. Her art inspired thought, dialogue, and empathy in her community, and beyond illustrating that choices in creative expression shape cultural and emotional impact that endures beyond immediate recognition. Chapter 8 teaches that life is all about choices, not only for personal fulfillment, but for the influence we have on others and the world. Our decisions shape legacy through actions, values, and consistency. The stories of Reena, Vikram, Mera, Arav, Samir, and Laila show that legacy is built over time through intentional decisions to act with purpose, integrity, and compassion, and that the impact of these choices can echo long beyond our own lives. Understanding that life is all about choices empowers us to live with awareness of the broader effects of our actions. It reminds us that every decision contributes to the story we leave behind, that intentional living enhances positive influence, and that choosing to act with responsibility, courage, and empathy creates a legacy of meaning and value for others and for generations to come. Chapter 9: Choices and Mindset. Life is shaped not only by the actions we take, but also by the mindset we cultivate, the perspective we choose to adopt, and the attitude we bring to every situation influence not only how we interpret events, but also the choices we make and the outcomes we experience. Mindset is the lens through which we view the world and ourselves, and it determines whether we see obstacles as barriers or opportunities, challenges as threats or lessons, and failures as endpoints or stepping stones. Consider the story of Arav, a young professional who faced repeated setbacks in his career. He could have interpreted failure as a sign of inadequacy and chosen to withdraw. Yet he chose a growth mindset. He analyzed each mistake, learned from feedback, and approached new opportunities with curiosity and determination. Over time, his persistence and adaptive mindset allowed him to achieve success and innovation that would have been impossible had he remained fixed in fear and self-doubt. Arav's story illustrates that mindset is itself a choice, and that our perspective directly influences the trajectory of our lives. Choices in mindset also affect relationships. A woman named Mira experienced conflict with a close friend. She could have chosen resentment and withdrawal. Yet she chose to view the situation empathetically, seeking to understand her friend's perspective and communicate openly. Her choice of a constructive mindset facilitated reconciliation and strengthened their bond. Mira's example shows that choosing perspective and emotional framing in relationships determines outcomes and deepens connection. Even health and well-being are influenced by mindset choices. Consider Reena, who faced a chronic illness. She could have chosen despair, yet she chose a mindset of acceptance and active engagement. She educated herself about her condition, adopted healthier habits, and focused on what she could control. Over time, her mental resilience improved, her quality of life and her ability to cope with challenges strengthened. Reena's story demonstrates that mindset shapes not only emotional experience, but also behavioral choices and physical outcomes. The power of choice and mindset is also evident in everyday habits and routines. A man named Kunal could have viewed mundane tasks and obstacles as burdens, yet he chose to adopt a mindset of intentionality and gratitude. He approached work with focus and curiosity daily. Routines became opportunities for learning and growth. Over time, this perspective fostered satisfaction, efficiency, and resilience, illustrating that mindset transforms ordinary experiences into meaningful practice and opportunity. Mindset choices influence long-term vision and fulfillment as well. Consider Priya, who aspired to create social impact through entrepreneurship. She could have been discouraged by risk and uncertainty, yet she chose optimism, persistence, and belief in her capacity to learn and adapt. Her mindset enabled her to overcome barriers, innovate solutions, and inspire others. Priya's story shows that the attitude we choose toward uncertainty shapes whether opportunities are pursued or abandoned, and that mindset governs the courage to act on our vision. Even adversity highlights the importance of mindset choices. A young man named Samir faced financial loss and personal setbacks. He could have succumbed to despair or blame, yet he chose resilience and constructive thinking, focusing on opportunities for recovery and growth over months. He rebuilt stability and even identified new paths for advancement, illustrating that mindset in the face of difficulty amplifies the effectiveness of all other choices and determines whether challenges become transformative or destructive. Chapter 9 teaches that life is all about choices in mindset, perspective, and attitude. Every decision about how we interpret experiences shapes our decisions, actions, and outcomes. The stories of Arav, Mira, Reena, Kunal, and Priya show that mindset influences resilience, relationships, productivity, and long-term growth, and that choosing perspective, optimism, and intentional thinking magnifies the impact of every action we take. Understanding that life is all about choices empowers us to recognize that our inner world is as important as external circumstances. It reminds us that every moment offers the choice to frame our experience constructively, to adopt curiosity and growth, to see opportunities in obstacles, and to cultivate mental resilience that enhances every decision and outcome in our lives. Chapter 10. Choices, Courage, and Taking Action. Life presents countless opportunities, but the value of opportunity depends on our willingness to act courageously. The choice to take action or remain passive determines whether dreams remain distant visions or become tangible realities. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite uncertainty, hesitation, or risk. Every step we take toward our goals requires the conscious choice to act and embrace the unknown. Consider the story of Reena, a young woman who dreamed of starting her own business. She faced financial uncertainty and skepticism from peers. Yet she chose to act. She researched, planned, and launched her venture despite initial setbacks. Over time, her business grew successfully, and she gained confidence, skills, and independence. Reena's example illustrates that courage is a choice, and that action transforms ideas into results, even when conditions are imperfect or intimidating. Choices about courage also influence personal growth. A man named Arav wanted to pursue a career in writing. He faced self-doubt and criticism, yet he chose to submit his work, accept feedback, and persist despite rejection. Over time, his persistence led to publication, recognition, and a sense of personal achievement. Arav's story demonstrates that taking action despite fear catalyzes growth and opportunity, and that the decision to act is more powerful than waiting for ideal circumstances. Even small acts of courage shape character and daily life. Consider Mira, who chose to speak up in meetings to share ideas. She feared judgment and ridicule, yet each time she acted, she grew more confident and effective. Her willingness to engage with discomfort strengthened her skills and credibility, illustrating that courageous choices compound to create significant personal development over time. Choices in action also shape relationships and influence others. A woman named Priya observed her friend struggling with a personal challenge. She could have stayed silent or intervened with support, yet she chose to offer guidance, encouragement, and presence over weeks and months. Her actions strengthened the friendship and fostered trust and mutual growth. Priya's experience shows that courage in relationships is expressed through action, and that choosing to engage meaningfully affects both our lives and the lives of others. Opportunities often require risk. Taking the story of Samir, who decided to invest in a new skill, demonstrates this principle. He could have stayed within his comfort zone, yet he chose to dedicate time and resources to learn digital marketing over months. Despite uncertainty, the skill opened new career paths and income streams, illustrating that action aligned with intention and vision amplifies potential outcomes, and that risk is a necessary component of meaningful achievement. Even in adversity, courageous choices define outcomes. A man named Vikram faced job loss during an economic downturn. He could have succumbed to despair or passivity, yet he chose to upskill, network, and pursue opportunities in emerging fields over months. He rebuilt financial stability and confidence. His decision to act decisively under pressure transformed challenge into opportunity, demonstrating that courage in action multiplies the effect of other choices and creates momentum in difficult circumstances. Chapter 10 teaches that life is all about choices in taking action and embracing courage. Each moment offers the decision to move forward or remain stagnant. The stories of Reena, Arav, Mira, Priya, Samir, and Vikram illustrate that action transforms dreams into reality, that courage is a choice we can cultivate, and that bold decisions create growth, opportunity, and resilience even in the face of fear, uncertainty, or challenge. Understanding that life is all about choices empowers us to recognize that progress depends on our willingness to act. It reminds us that courage is cultivated through repeated decisions to step forward, that hesitation delays growth, and that every action taken with intention and resolve compounds into transformation, achievement, and fulfillment. Chapter 11: Choices, Responsibility, and Ownership. Life is filled with opportunities to make decisions, yet the true measure of maturity and personal power comes from the willingness to take responsibility for the consequences of those choices, to embrace ownership of our actions and their impact on ourselves and others. Every decision carries weight, and even when circumstances are beyond our control, we retain the choice of how to respond and the commitment to accept the outcomes of our actions. Consider the story of Arav, a young professional who made a mistake on an important project. He could have shifted blame onto colleagues or circumstances, yet he chose to acknowledge the error, take responsibility, and work diligently to correct it over time. His honesty, accountability, and proactive problem-solving earned him trust, respect, and new opportunities. Arav's story illustrates that taking ownership of our choices transforms setbacks into credibility and growth, and that responsibility itself is a choice that empowers rather than diminishes. Responsibility also extends to personal habits and health. A woman named Priya struggled with maintaining a healthy lifestyle. She could have blamed stress, genetics, or busy schedules. Yet she chose to take ownership of her well-being through daily exercise, balanced nutrition, and mindfulness practices. Over months, she experienced improved energy, focus, and resilience. Priya's example demonstrates that embracing responsibility for our habits creates control and freedom in life, and that choices grounded in accountability compound into lasting transformation. Choices in relationships also require ownership. The story of Mira highlights this principle. She realized that recurring conflicts with a friend were partly due to her own behavior. She could have ignored this reality. Yet she chose to reflect, communicate openly, and adjust her actions consistently. Over time, the relationship strengthened and mutual respect deepened. Mira's experience shows that acknowledging our role in interactions and choosing responsible behavior strengthens bonds and fosters trust illustrating that accountability enhances connection and influence. Even career and professional decisions illustrate the power of ownership. A man named Samir faced a failed business venture. He could have blamed the market, employees, or luck. Yet he chose to analyze his mistakes, learn lessons, and plan a new approach. He took full responsibility for his choices and over time built a successful business informed by experience and reflection. Samir's story demonstrates that accepting ownership of outcomes empowers adaptation, innovation, and long-term success, and that responsible choices magnify the impact of experience. Ownership also applies to mindset and emotional regulation. The story of Rina illustrates this clearly. She faced challenges that triggered anger, fear, and frustration. She could have blamed others or external circumstances for her emotional state. Yet she chose to take responsibility for her thoughts and responses, practicing reflection, self-control, and constructive action. Over time, she gained resilience, peace, and clarity. Rina's example demonstrates that choosing responsibility for our inner world shapes behavior, decisions, and outcomes in every domain of life. Chapter 11 teaches that life is all about choices, not only in action, but in embracing responsibility and ownership. Every decision carries consequences, and the conscious acceptance of these outcomes builds personal power, integrity, and confidence. The stories of Arav, Priya, Mira, Samir, and Rina show that accountability transforms mistakes into growth, setbacks into opportunity, and ordinary actions into deliberate steps toward fulfillment and success. Understanding that life is all about choices empowers us to embrace responsibility as a source of strength. It reminds us that no one else can live our lives or bear the outcomes of our decisions, that ownership fosters freedom and empowerment rather than burden, and that by taking accountability for our actions, habits, relationships, and mindset, we create a life of integrity, resilience, and intentional purpose. Chapter 12. Choices, Reflection, and Continuous Growth. Life is a continuous journey of learning and evolving, and the choices we make are not fixed. They are part of an ongoing process of reflection, adaptation, and growth. Every decision offers feedback, and every experience provides insight into what works and what does not. Yet growth only occurs when we take the time to reflect on our choices, to understand their impact, and to adjust our future actions accordingly. Consider the story of Arav, who, after achieving early success in his career, chose to set aside time each week to review his decisions, goals, and habits. He could have continued reacting, yet he chose to pause, evaluate outcomes, and identify areas for improvement over months and years. This practice allowed him to refine his strategies, strengthen his skills, and make more informed choices that compounded into long-term success. Arav's story illustrates that reflection is itself a deliberate choice that magnifies the value of every other decision we make. Reflection also shapes personal growth and emotional intelligence. A woman named Mira faced recurring challenges in her relationships. She could have ignored patterns of conflict or blamed others. Yet she chose to reflect on her own responses, triggers, and behavior through journaling and mindfulness. She gained insight into her emotional patterns, developed empathy, and improved her interactions over time. Mira's experience shows that conscious reflection enhances self-awareness and enables choices that foster harmony and personal development. Continuous growth requires choosing to learn from mistakes and embrace feedback. The story of Priya demonstrates this principle. She struggled with a professional setback. Yet she could have reacted defensively or ignored criticism. She chose instead to seek feedback, analyze errors, and adapt her approach. Over months. She regained confidence, improved performance, and advanced in her career. Priya's example illustrates that growth depends on the deliberate choice to learn from experience rather than resist it, and that reflection transforms challenges into stepping stones. Even small daily moments offer opportunities for reflective choice. Consider Reena, who each evening took time to review her day, noticing successes, areas for improvement, and moments of gratitude. She could have rushed to sleep or ignored her habits. Yet she chose reflection consistently. Over time, this simple practice enhanced her clarity, focus, and decision-making, demonstrating that reflection is a habit that compounds into continuous personal and professional growth. Choices and long-term planning are also enhanced by reflection. A man named Samir, who aspired to build a sustainable business, chose to periodically evaluate market trends, team dynamics, and customer feedback. He could have relied solely on intuition or past experience. Yet he chose to integrate lessons learned into new strategies over time. This iterative process strengthened his business and reduced risk. Samir's story shows that reflection amplifies the effectiveness of strategic decisions and ensures alignment with long-term vision. Chapter 12 teaches that life is all about choices, not only in action, but in mindful reflection and continual learning. Every choice provides feedback, and every outcome offers insight. The stories of Arav Mira, Priya, Reena, and Samir illustrate that the habit of reflecting on decisions enhances personal growth, emotional intelligence, resilience, and long-term success. The continuous evaluation and adjustment transform ordinary experiences into opportunities for mastery, and that deliberate reflection is a choice that strengthens all aspects of life. Understanding that life is all about choices empowers us to see reflection as a critical tool for growth. It reminds us that no decision is final or wasted, that every experience carries a lesson, and that by consciously examining our choices, learning from outcomes, and adjusting our actions, we create a cycle of continuous improvement, personal transformation, and ever-expanding potential. Conclusion. Embracing the power of choice. Life is a journey, but by the countless decisions we make each day, from the smallest habit to the most life-altering commitment, every moment presents an opportunity to choose, and with each choice we direct the course of our future. The stories explored throughout this book illustrate that life is all about choices, and that the power to shape our destiny resides in our hands. We have seen that choices influence every aspect of existence, from daily routines and personal habits to relationships, career decisions, health, and long-term vision. The decisions we make define our growth, our resilience, our happiness, and the legacy we leave behind. Each choice compounds with the next, creating patterns that shape character, opportunity, and fulfillment. The power of choice is both liberating and challenging, for it demands awareness, courage, responsibility, and reflection. Embracing the reality that life is all about choices empowers us to live intentionally, to evaluate options carefully, and to act with clarity and purpose. It reminds us that even when circumstances are difficult or uncertain, we retain agency over our responses, our mindset, and the steps we take toward growth and happiness. The examples of those who faced adversity, pursued vision, and chose courage illustrate that conscious decision-making transforms challenges into opportunities and dreams into realities. The lessons of this book show that success and fulfillment are rarely accidental. They are cultivated through repeated intentional choices aligned with our values, goals, and purpose. The choices we make about how we spend time, the mindset we adopt, the relationships we nurture, and the actions we take all converge to create the quality of our lives. The responsibility to choose wisely is immense. Yet, it is also the source of empowerment, for no one else can decide our path or determine the meaning of our journey. As we conclude this exploration of life and choice, it becomes clear that embracing this truth is the first step toward transformation, recognizing that every moment matters, and that even small decisions have ripple effects allows us to approach life with awareness, consistency, and courage. Life rewards those who choose deliberately, who act with integrity, and who persist in aligning daily actions with long-term vision. The power to live a meaningful, fulfilling, and impactful life is inseparable from the choices we make in every moment. Ultimately, life is all about choices, and understanding this empowers us to step into responsibility, freedom, and possibility. It teaches that growth emerges from reflection and action. Happiness stems from alignment with values. Relationships flourish through attention and care, and legacy is shaped by integrity and purposeful action. Choosing consciously is the path to transformation, and embracing this truth allows us to live fully, authentically, and with the profound awareness that our destiny is written one choice at a time. This concludes your book in a flowing motivational narrative that ties together the themes of choice, responsibility, courage, mindset, and legacy. The end.
Kindly subscribe to my channel.